Different time zone tonight, crew. Same story. Yesterday at this board, I told you Nvidia dropped about $250 billion in a session, and Apple took back the title of most valuable company in the world. That was the American half of the event, and it was the half that happened while Asia was asleep. Then Asia woke up. What follows is what the same news looked like from the other side of the planet, and it is a good deal louder over there. Numbers first, the way we always do it. South Korea's Kospi closed down 10.84% at 6,023.66. During the session, it was down as much as 11.29%. Samsung Electronics finished off 13.39%, SK hynix off 14.65%, SK Square, which is the parent company of SK hynix, off 15.6%, and Hanmi Semiconductor, which makes chip equipment, off 12.22%. And then something happened that does not happen on an ordinary bad day. The exchange had to switch the market off. A sidecar and a market-wide circuit breaker were both triggered. And if those words mean nothing to you, here is the plain version. When an index falls past a set threshold, the exchange stops trading for everybody, on purpose to give human beings a minute to stop panicking. Korea had to use that lever today. The last time the Kospi fell harder than this was March 4th, down 12.06% after the war in the Middle East broke out. Now watch it spread, because this is the part that tells you it was not really about semiconductors. Hyundai Motor, which makes cars, fell 9.68%. Naver, which is basically Korea's internet company, fell 6.67%. Neither of those firms makes memory chips. They went down because when two companies are that large a share of a national index, a bad enough day in those two forces everybody to sell whatever else they own to cover it. That is not a chip story anymore. That is a whole economy taking the hit. Here is the number I actually want you to carry out of this, crew, because it is the one nobody puts in a headline. Foreign investors sold a net 4.97 trillion won of Korean shares today. That is about $3.4 billion walking out the door. And on the other side of every one of those sales, somebody was buying. Retail investors, ordinary Korean households, bought a net 4.33 trillion won. Institutions took another 630 billion. The money that left was foreign. The money that caught it was domestic. And a great deal of it belonged to families. And there is one company whose timing on this deserves its own line in the ledger. Back on the 10th of July, SK hynix sold American depository receipts on the NASDAQ at $149 apiece, raising $26.5 billion. That was the largest share sale ever completed in the United States by a foreign company. 18 days later, those receipts were changing hands at $143.02, which puts them 4% underneath the price the buyers paid at issue. Anybody who bought that offering as a bet on memory chips has watched the bet go underwater in under 3 weeks. So what set it off? Two pieces of news out of China, one day apart. On Monday, the American outlet The Information reported that a Shanghai company backed by the Chinese government has begun manufacturing domestically developed deep ultraviolet lithography machines. Those are the tools that print the circuits onto the silicon, and the Dutch firm ASML has long dominated making them. The second piece was the memory manufacturer CXMT going public in Shanghai, where its shares surged nearly 470% on the first day of trading. Fair shake, and there are two pieces of it, and both matter. First, deep ultraviolet is not extreme ultraviolet. DUV is the previous generation of that machine. It is genuinely good enough to make most of the chips in most of the things you own, but it does not make the most advanced ones, and nobody has claimed China has cracked the extreme ultraviolet machines. Second, listen to the analysts rather than the ticker. Kim Seok-hwan at Mirai Asset Securities said a new shock did not bring the market down, that it was familiar risks finally being priced in as crowded positioning met thin liquidity. One caution about the numbers, and I would rather bore you than mislead you. The size of CXMT's first-day pop has been reported as 465%, 466, nearly 470, and as much as 500. ASML's drop on Monday has been put at 5.8%, at 6, at more than 7, and at over 8. Those are real measurements taken at different moments, and this desk uses the range instead of picking whichever one sounds best. The Kospi figure is not in a range. It is 10.84%. One country, one day. Ledger it. On the 22nd of June, the Kospi set a record high of 9,114. Tonight, it closed at 6,023. That is roughly a third of the whole index gone in about 5 weeks. And that is our arithmetic on their published numbers. Export controls were built to protect a technological lead, and this week, a market put a price on what it thinks that lead is now worth. The people holding the bill tonight are not the funds that got out at $3.4 billion. They are the households that bought what the funds were selling. Look after each other out there. I'm Marcus, and this is Pixel Politics.